Okay, good morning, everybody. So congratulations to all the Broncos fans out there. My condolences to any Panther fans and any Bears fans. So we have a great event for you today. We got a couple surprise guests added to the event. Anyways, my name is Matt Eggemeyer. I'm from Keats Manufacturing here in Wheeling, but I'm also the president of the Wheeling Prospect Heights Chamber of Commerce. I have one plug to make. We have a State of the City, State of the Village coming up on the 24th at Chevy Chase in the morning. I hope you all can make it. I also have to give some thanks to Kareem Koja and Daniel Milan. Kareem is from the local Dunkin' Donuts, and Daniel's from the local Sam's Club. Thank you for the coffee and the nice desserts. Anyways, the other part of thanks I have to give to is Anton Kortskov here from iCar team. He's gracefully given us his facility for this great event. Anton.
Good morning, everyone. We are proud to be hosting this town hall. We are looking forward to what our Congressman, Lieutenant Governor, and Governor Rauner have to say about government support for the manufacturing industry. At this point, let me introduce my good friend, Congressman Bob Dole.
Ladies, it's great to be here, back here at iCar team, and to see so many of our good friends from the Wheeling Chamber, Prospect Heights Chamber. And I really want to talk today just a little bit about what we need to be doing here as a local community to try to make sure that we're fostering job creation and growth. We all know that we have the assets right here in the 10th Congressional District in Northern Illinois to be leading not just the Midwest, but the entire country. We have a fantastic access to top quality people, which I think is absolutely one of the things that we see each and every day in our businesses. As we look at the natural resources and we look at our infrastructure, we sit at the hub of the entire country right here. And so one of the things that I look at is what can we be doing as a government to try to make sure that we make that investment in our infrastructure. For the first time in 10 years in Washington, D.C., we have a long-term surface transportation bill that, yes, provides some more certainty. We were able to pass some tax extenders that basically allow small businesses to be able to expense equipment and have the certainty to know that that's exactly what they're going to be able to do year in and year out. In the past, we've done this retroactively, and one of the things that we've heard from manufacturers and businesses out there is we need more certainty. And I will tell you that we are not waiting for Washington to work. We're not waiting for that. We're waiting on no one, which is why it's so great to see so many of you here. And we recognize that if we want to do greater things here in the 10th Congressional District, greater things in Northern Illinois, we must create that business-friendly environment. We all know far too many that have picked up and left to go to neighboring states, whether it be Wisconsin, Indiana, Texas, you name it. And yet we know, after even taking a tour here, that we have the manpower, we have the know-how, we have the talent to be growing right here. And so for me, it's an honor to be able to be your voice in the United States Congress. We've been working on things in terms of education, and frankly, as we look at manufacturing, at engineering, mathematics, all of these types of things, as we look at how we're able to impact that, the Village of Wheeling has been instrumental. Laz Lopez, who is the head of my Educational Advisory Board, STEM education has been a key for that institution, for that school, and that has grown and spread. So we know right here that the Village of Wheeling is doing great things. I was just in Korea with the Village of Wheeling, trying to talk to some of those Korean businesses about why they should come here to the Village of Wheeling to set up a US-based business. Because we know empirically, if we're innovating, if we're creating those things, they're going to bring those jobs, those good, high-paying careers right back here to Illinois. So part of that in trying to create that business-friendly environment is working with the state. And I will tell you that there's a dynamo in the state and a lieutenant governor, Evelyn Sanguinetti, and she has worked with us on our Women's Leadership Academy and so many other things, but she is a dynamo that is working each and every day for the state of Illinois and helping our governor. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you your Lieutenant Governor, Evelyn Sanguinetti.
Good morning, buenos dias. How are you all doing today? You're all bright-eyed, and it's so great to be here in Wheeling with all of you. Well, as your lieutenant governor, let me tell you, Bruce Rauner put me to work right away. And my first homework project was to chair a task force that Bruce Rauner started not this February, but last February. See, he found that Illinois was first place at one thing, and do you folks know what that is? We have the most units of government than any other state, right? We're first place in that. And that's problematic. You know, if by point of comparison, we have almost 7,000 units of government, which means that if we were to compare ourselves to Texas, for instance, they have 1,800 units of government less than we do here in Illinois. And as you folks know, in Texas, they're far larger and more populous, so this shouldn't be happening. Also, we pay the second highest property tax rate. That's phenomenal. Here in the country, that's huge. We pay the second highest property tax rate. So Bruce Rauner took a look at all these units of government, the fact that we have the second highest property tax rate, and we had to do something about it. So in this task force, when Bruce Rauner unveiled it in February of last year, we decided that we needed 24 members, and a lot of people thought, no, they're all going to be just Chicagoland region people. Well, that was not the case. How could we do a thorough study? So we picked out people that were state representatives, both sides of the aisle, senators, also two people representing various units of government, mayors, managers, so that we could have that accurate picture. And we convened and had 16 meetings. We had 33 experts come and opine, mayors, managers as well, telling us what's ailing their communities. And based upon all of our meetings, we also had to partner with a university. We needed a think tank that would crunch numbers, because this task force would look at consolidation, and it would look at unfunded mandates. Now, for those of you who've not heard about unfunded mandates, that's when big government tells little government what to do, but they give you no money to do these sort of things. It costs local government a lot of money. So we conducted this study, and at the close of the year with the university, we issued a 400-page task force report. We had 27 proposals based upon all of our meetings on how to streamline and drive efficiencies to your particular communities. So just last Friday, after this task force report came out, Naperville got bit by the bug, and they convened and thought about ways, used our task force report as a tool to start having these discussions on how they could streamline government. Also, too, last Friday in Naperville, we also proposed 4 bills, because this task force report, brothers and sisters, is not going to be one of those that you put up on a shelf and will collect dust. Already, we put batteries in them, and we took 4 bills and are proposing those to our legislature. So with that, we're very, very, very thoughtful of how we put this together. We look forward to driving this. And I'm thankful to Bruce that he saw that problem firsthand so we could start taking care of things. Some of you don't know, my mom is from Cuba, my dad's from Ecuador. I was able to live the American dream, but like many of you, I often wondered about our future and whether our kids could live that American dream. That's why I signed on with Bruce Rauner, because he could drive changes, he could drive reforms. We're seeing it already, and this is why I'm so proud to introduce to all of you today our Governor, Bruce Rauner.
Thank you so much, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. It's an honor to be with you. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy day. I want this to be fun and informative, so I know we've collected questions from the group, and I want to do a lot of Q&A. That's the most fun way to do this. Let's give you a little update. There's a huge struggle going on in Springfield right now for the future of Illinois. Titanic battle. Are we going to stay on the track we've been on for decades, or are we going to go in a new positive direction? The track we're on, deficit spending, borrowing, more taxing, more job loss, more decline in family incomes, and school funding cuts. That's what we've been doing for years and years. Or we're going to change direction, strong economic growth, value for taxpayers, money into our education system rather than the bureaucracy, so we can have the most prosperous families in America, some of the strongest economic growth, and real value for taxpayers, and end some of the cronyism and conflicts of interest and corruption that's going on in the system. It's a basic choice. So far, the majority in the legislature in Springfield says, no changes. We like what we got. We like the direction we're going. Governor, just raise taxes to cover our deficit. No, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. We have been borrowing and spending and taxing for decades. You know what? Here's a tragic fact. They say, well, all we need to do is raise taxes and we'll have a balanced budget. I've gone back and studied our budget in detail for decades. I've gone back 20 years, 30 years. I can't find that we've ever had a balanced budget. Ever. Yes, exactly. We don't pay our bills until a year late. That's borrowing from our vendors at 12% interest that you pay. We borrow in the bond market for infrastructure, but then we use some of it for operations. No, 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 no. And then we give incredibly generous pension benefits because we want political support from the government unions. Unaffordable pension benefits, where the pension benefits payouts are 8 times and 10 times what the employees pay in. Never going to be affordable. And then the politicians choose not to fund the pensions. It's a broken system. And let's be clear, when we don't fund the actuarial required amount in the pensions, that is borrowing at 8% interest. That's what that is. Because the pension assets generate 8% returns on average for decades. When we don't fund the amount required day one, that is borrowing at 8%. But the politicians love it because you don't know that we're borrowing and they don't have to pay the interest annually on it. They just don't pay the pension and then the piper comes due. That's what got done 20 years ago. And now look at, you're getting stuck with the bill. We got to change this system. And when the speaker says to me, Bruce, just raise taxes. That's it. I say, no, Mr. Speaker. We need to change the system that causes these deficit spending problems that have been going on for 40 years. Change the system. They want the conversation to be either raise taxes or cut programs. That doesn't have to be the conversation. How about we grow faster and shrink the bureaucracy? How about if we shrink the bureaucracy and put the money in our schools and our education system so we have the best schools in America? How about we do that? And how about if we grow? You know, today in Illinois, we have fewer jobs in Illinois today than we had in 1999. Hello. We got a lot of problems. If we don't change that, we are not fixing any other problem. And the average family income in Illinois today is lower than it was 8 years ago. We got to change. And anybody who says to me, Governor, just raise taxes, the budget will be fine. No, that is not the answer. There's a lot of pressure on me to raise taxes. There's a lot of people saying, just do it, Governor. But the good news is there's a lot of chatter in the media for that, but when I travel the state and I'm on the road 7 days a week, people by the dozens come up to me everywhere I go, every day, and say, Governor, stay strong. Don't back down. Don't give in. You're on the right track. And then many times they'll say, and by the way, I'm a Democrat. I don't even normally vote Republican, but you know what? You're going the right way. We are supporting you. And then even further, many times this person says, hey, I'm a big union guy. My boss doesn't really like you very much, but I like you, and I support what you're doing. We need more jobs, and we need value for our taxes. My taxes are crushing my family. We got a lot of support, but the groups, and Speaker Madigan, who just wants the status quo, they're strong. So this is going to be a big tussle. We need your help. We need you to help, call your legislators. Tell them to stay strong and support reforms. We're trying to reform the political process so it works for you, so get term limits on elected officials, and get redistricting reforms so we can have competitive general elections. We're trying to restore our good government processes by streamlining government, getting procurement reform, purchasing reform. That could save you $500 million a year if we do that in state government. We're trying to get local control on cost of government, collective bargaining, bidding, contracting, so we can shrink your property tax burden. Get you the power to control with the spending inside your community. We're trying to get pro-growth, pro-jobs creation reforms, workers' comp reform, so we're competitive with other states. Get tort reform, so we're competitive with other states. If we do that, rather than being one of the lowest growing economic states in America, we can be one of the, I think if we got our full reforms that we're advocating, I think we could be in the top 10 fast growing states. We got the location, we got the people, we got the resources to do it. But I'm asking, how about if we just be average? Let's be average. What if we just grew the average of all the states? And you know what? I've done the numbers. If we, in the last 10, 15 years, if we just grown the average, we wouldn't have any unpaid bills and we wouldn't have any deficits. And we wouldn't have had to do the 2011 tax hike. Think about that. If our economic growth was just the average, we need reforms. And that's what we're battling for. And we're not going to wait around while the Speaker and the majority in the legislature resists us. We're taking action right now. We're enlisting the help of the business community. We've gone to the business community and say, we need to relieve congestion on some of our highways here. It's strangling our economic growth and hurting our commuters and hurting our tourists. So let's get the business community involved. Right now, we've already proposed a public-private partnership for the Stevenson Expressway to expand the number of lanes between the Dan Ryan and the Veterans Memorial. And we can have private investors build the new lanes, keep the existing lanes free, totally free, but the new lanes can be managed toll. So if you want to pay $3 to end run the whole congestion, you can pay $3 and end run the congestion. If you want to stay in the traffic you got now, fine, but you can choose. And we don't have to have the taxpayers pay a single nickel for it. We've gone to the business community and say, we need to do a better job recruiting businesses to come to Illinois. We've done a terrible job. We need to bring in superstars who can market and sell the state along with me. I'm going to do a lot of that myself. And we need to pay the people the right amount, and we need to pay them on incentives so when they deliver results, they can get good pay. Our union contracts inside government prohibit any of that. So our Department of Commerce is totally hamstrung. We can't do it. So we've gone to the business community and say, let's raise a private, not-for-profit corporation. You guys fund it. Taxpayers don't fund it. The business community chips in. We've already got millions offered to fund it. And let's form a partnership between that corporation and the Department of Commerce to grow businesses and recruiting of companies from around the world to come to Illinois. We're kicking that off. The Speaker blocked that legislation last year, so we did it right now by executive order. We're moving forward. We're going to get it done. I've also gone to the business community and say, we have brutally high unemployment in too many of our low-income neighborhoods and African-American neighborhoods and Latino neighborhoods in Chicago and in Rockford and Decatur and East St. Louis. We need more businesses and more jobs there. We need to empower local entrepreneurs. Not enough African-American entrepreneurs have access to capital, access to consulting and resources when they build their businesses. So I've asked the business community to volunteer successful entrepreneurs and form a network of advisors, consultants, board members, and financiers to help minority entrepreneurs build their businesses in their neighborhoods. And we've announced it. It's starting. We've got 12 superstars already volunteered, helping minority entrepreneurs build their businesses, getting in the network of finance, getting the network of board members, getting in the network of executives to come to their businesses. And it's very exciting, and it's off to the races. And it's led by an African-American entrepreneur that we met who's at the Department of Commerce, and he's leading it. He sold his company, very successful, and he wants to give back in his community, and he's making it happen. This is all done with no taxpayer money. This is done by people volunteering and getting involved from the business community and transforming our state. We're moving forward every day. We're transforming our IT infrastructure in Illinois. You won't be surprised. Our computer systems in state government, oh my goodness. We've got computer systems, we've got software from 1974. I'm not making this up. That run in major departments. Hugely expensive to maintain. We're the third highest spending on IT of any state in America, third highest, among the worst for digital services. I went into one department after I became governor, and I said, there was 200 people in the room moving paper across their desk. I said, gosh, they invented computers a couple years ago. We might be able to actually digitize this. And they said, yeah, well, the work rules kind of don't really, the system doesn't really like that. But I said, well, what's the math on this? They said, we could spend $500,000 to put in a computer system in this department, save $7 million per year. That's one department. That's true all around the government. We have hundreds of computer systems doing our financial reporting in the state government, and they don't talk to each other. Hundreds. So we're consolidating all our IT, and we got an executive I brought from the private sector from Cisco to come in to run it. We're consolidating our whole IT, and we're going to modernize it and upgrade. We're going to leapfrog the technology that's been put in the last 30 years and go to the latest and the best for the future. It'll cost us a little bit of money in the short run, going to save us hundreds of millions of dollars in the long run. So we're transforming the system. It's hard, it takes time, but we got to stay persistent. And your help, if you'll get involved, volunteer if you got a little bit of time, but mostly let your legislators know we need to change direction. We can't just put a big tax hike on our economy. If we just put a tax hike in, that's going to push more employers out. That's going to push more hardworking families out, and we already lead the nation in out-migration from the state. We can't just do a tax hike. Let your legislators know we need reforms. Now, my hat's off to Democratic Representative Elaine Neckritz. She was actually willing to publicly say we should have reforms as part of our budget process. Most Democrats are a little bit afraid to take on the Speaker because the Speaker said no, 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 no. She said it publicly. Many will say it privately, but they won't say it publicly. Ask them to say it publicly. Ask them. We need to go in a direction for the government's working for the people again, and we can have a bright future. We have the best people in America, the best location. We should be kicking tails. We can do it. We'll do it with your help. So with that, we turn it over to questions. Okay? Yeah, come on up, Liz.
So first question is, why are term limits and redistricting so important to you? They don't seem like they have any direct impact on fixing our budget deficit.
Yeah, great question. So term limits and redistricting reform are about good government, about having government that's responsive to the people. I'm a big believer in them, and the vast majority of Democratic voters and Republican voters in Illinois support term limits and redistricting reform. The vast majority in both political parties. And President Obama has come out publicly supporting term limits to help end corruption and self-dealing, and supporting redistricting reform to bring good government. This is bipartisan. And here, when folks say to me, well, but that's lovely, Bruce, but you know what, that doesn't have anything to do with the budget, so let's talk about that later. I say, no, just a minute. We need to start ending the self-dealing and the corruption and conflicts of interest. We all agree that term limits and redistricting can help that. And let me quote two studies. The University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC, did a study a number of years ago that said you, the taxpayers of Illinois, pay over $500 million in a corruption tax every year. That's what the UIC said. And the University of Indiana did a study on various states, especially on Illinois, and they said, you, taxpayers in Illinois, all of us, pay over $2 billion a year in higher taxes because of corruption and conflicts of interest. Now, I don't know which number's right. Pick the lowest number. Let's save the money. How much better could our schools be if we took that $500 million and put it in our schools instead of to a system of conflicts of interest? Term limits and redistricting reform directly related to the budget. And if we restore confidence in our government that it actually works for the people again, more businesses will want to come here because they'll have confidence the government's working for them and they're not just going to get stuck with higher taxes. The government works for them. We can grow faster growth if we get term limits and redistricting reform too. So it's very tied to the budget.
Sure, no problem. You want to freeze property taxes, but since property taxes, especially in the suburbs, support schools, how do you ensure schools don't lose funding?
Yeah, it's a great question. School funding is the single most important thing we do. I don't know if you know this. We are dead last, unfortunately. On all the terrible things, we're a leader, and all the good things, we're last. This has got to change. That's my goal. I want us to be average. Let's be average. You know what? We are dead last in school funding from the state. We're the lowest. We're number 50 out of 50 of all the states for state support for education. That is wrong. We're going to change it. We want to significantly increase state support for education. Number one priority. The money should go out of the bureaucracy and in our schools. And I do want to emphasize that more money should go into our lowest income districts and our rural districts that need the resources, disproportionately. However, I do not support the ideas that have been floated to take money from some school districts and give it to other school districts. I do not support that. I do support more state support for education, very strongly. Education is the single most important thing we do. We've got problems with crime, poverty, unemployment, low wages, lack of competitiveness. You pick the problem, education is a key component of solving that problem. And we should have the best schools in America. There is no reason that we can't have the best schools in America here. So we're going to increase state support. We do want to relieve the burden on our property taxes, but the way to do that is to increase state support for schools combined with giving you control inside your school districts and your government. When you build a school building right now, you're forced to pay a certain wage on the construction project. Whether that's above market or not, you have to pay it. I want you to decide when you bid out your construction projects for your schools, who can bid and what the cost should be. It's your school, it doesn't belong to Springfield. You're paying for it. Prevailing wage rules makes you spend 20% more when you do a construction project. That's a lot of money that you could put in the money for your teachers. Likewise, in outside contracting, the city of Chicago gets to bid out contract services for janitorial and others for Chicago. You're not allowed to in Wheeling. You're not allowed to do that in Lake County. You should be able to decide what can get contracted out in your school district to save money so the money can go to your teachers in the classroom rather than for janitorial service. Chicago gets to take things out of collective bargaining with the teachers. Length of school day, length of school year, pension contributions. Chicago gets to take that out of collective bargaining because they get a special deal. You can't do that. You can't do that in Wheeling schools. I'm saying you should be allowed to be treated just like Chicago. You should decide what gets collectively bargained. It's your school. It doesn't belong to Springfield. If you want to collectively bargain everything, terrific, bargain it. Got no problem. But nobody should tell you what you have to bargain. You should do it. It's your school. Do it your way. If we do that, we can save hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year, give it to the teachers for their salaries, and have the best schools in America by saving money in the bureaucracy and getting more state support. That's the key.
So we have a question from Maureen Reedy from Visit Lake County. She asks or says that tourism is a critical part of economic development in the area. How does the current tourism structure and funding from state hotel tax receipts fit into your vision for the new Illinois Business and Economic Development Corporation?
Yes, great question. So for almost 4 years, I was the chairman of the Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau. Mayor Daley put me in charge of that because he knew that I would not take the status quo. Chicago was one of the worst performing cities for a long time on tourism. And so I helped blow that up. We got a whole new board, a whole new management team, a whole new marketing system. In the 4 years I was there and a couple years after, Chicago became one of the fastest growing tourist destinations in the United States. Tourism is a huge economic driver, huge job creator, jobs at all levels, from waiters and busboys to business owners and executives and cab drivers and maids and maintenance workers to salesmen and everybody in between. Tourism, huge economic driver. And I personally, as we get a budget with reforms, I would like to see marketing money increase for our state and increase for your local communities. We could be one of the most fastest growing tourist destinations everywhere in the state of Illinois. With our location, with our great resources, with our great people, with our great fun things to do in restaurants and rivers and lakes and cultural amenities, we can be booming on tourism. And I'm going to be very committed to making that happen. Right now we have a convoluted structure where the state doesn't coordinate with local tourist branches very well. We're trying to change that and put the money out there where it can make a difference to drive more tourist dollars here to the state. We're going to push that really hard.
Rusty Magner from Meeker Magner asks, Caterpillar just announced more job cuts in Illinois after refusing to add new plants. Tell us how many jobs have gone to other states during the past 10 years, and how can we end the trend?
Yeah, this is the number one thing we've got to change. We were the manufacturing center of America in Illinois. We were. We're really not anymore. We've lost over 300,000 manufacturing jobs the last, 10, 12 years. We've lost 100,000 union jobs. People say I'm anti-union. I'm not at all. Join a union if you want, terrific. I had no issue. But you know what's anti-union are the policies in Illinois. Union workers are losing their jobs left and right. Caterpillar is one of the best employers in America. Great jobs. Caterpillar told me they've been growing their jobs out of Illinois for years because our workers' comp costs them 5 times as much here as it does in the other states where they build their equipment. Illinois is not competitive on workers' comp. It's not competitive on liability insurance. The tort system is broken. Caterpillar has huge investment in Illinois, multi-billion-dollar investment. They want to be here, and it'd be more cost-effective for them to build where they already are. They'd like to expand in Illinois, but with our regulations, our labor regulations and our workers' comp, they're not competitive. We're much higher costs. So they're growing in Texas, Georgia, other states, and Indiana. They're not growing here. Big problem. And that's occurring every week. I hear about another company. It drives me nuts. I'm a competitive son of a gun. I don't want to lose a single job to Indiana. That's the #1 state where our jobs go. They ain't going there for the weather. Boy, that makes me mad. You know, Mitch Daniels is a friend of mine. He was my coach when I was first starting to run. I think he was the best governor in America when he was governor of Indiana. Did a phenomenal job. I said to him, I was half joking. I said, Mitch, you know, Indiana would be a cornfield if Illinois had its act together. We should be where the jobs are. We got the people, we got the location, we got the infrastructure. But they're going to Indiana. Workers' comp, property taxes, labor regulations, restrictions. That's why. We got to change that. If we do, I can't wait. I want to go to Indiana. I'm going to Wisconsin. I'm going to Iowa. I'm going to Texas. I can't wait to go to Texas and bring businesses out of Dallas and bring them right here. We're going to bring them right here. Because there's no way Texas should be kicking our tails the way they are. I want to beat Texas really bad, and we will. We're going to get our reforms, and we will.
So last question from my cousin, Wade Keats at Keats Manufacturing. We understand you're working very hard to help improve the business climate in Illinois. As a manufacturer and a concerned citizen, what can we do to help?
Thanks, that's a great question. So I need you to reach out to your legislators and Democrats and Republicans and say, please support the governor and do reforms. The Democrats have a supermajority. If they really believe that they wanted just to do a tax hike and that was the right answer, they could do it. They could pass it. A lot of the Democrats know it's not the right answer. They won't say it publicly, but they won't vote for a tax hike because they know that's not the right answer. Say, if you're not going to do a tax hike to pay our services, work with the governor to get term limits and redistricting, to get local control on government costs, to get pro-business reforms. And when some of them say to you, well, but the governor's policies will hurt the middle class in Illinois, or competing with other states is a race to the bottom, which is what they say to me, tell them that's baloney. They say, we don't want to be like Texas because, you know, they're a right-to-work state and they're not friendly to workers. You know what? Texas is growing, and Texas now pays their factory workers more than Illinois does. Factory workers in Texas make more than here. And we're supposed to be the pro-employee, pro-union state. They make more there. Come on. Let's deal with the reality here. If we're not growing, our incomes for our families are not going up. I need you to reach out to your legislators. Call them, send them emails. Come on down to Springfield. I live there. It's a nice community. Come visit. Knock on the speaker's door. Say, get reforms. Get reforms. We need you. The business community has a voice. Encourage your local Chamber of Commerce to write letters. Encourage the state chamber. They're with us. The Illinois Manufacturers Association is helping. The Illinois Chamber is helping. NFIB is helping. But get your voices heard. Your voice in your community will impact your local legislator. Get your voice heard. Your voice matters. We all are elected to work for you. We should be working for you, not for any special interest in Springfield. We should be working for you.
Okay, the Wheeling Prospect Heights Chamber of Commerce thanks you for coming, and we'd like to thank Governor Rauner, Lieutenant Governor Sanguinetti, and obviously Congressman Dole for stopping by and saying a few words. Thank you.